I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, December the 30th, 2013. 5 Katyusha rockets were fired into Israel from Lebanon early yesterday morning. 2 of those rockets crossed the border with Israel and landed near Kiryat Shmona. No damage or injury was reported. Israel responded to the rocket attack with artillery fire into southern Lebanon. No injury was reported on the Lebanese side. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the rocket attack into Israel constituted 2 war crimes. Netanyahu said what is happening in Lebanon is that Hezbollah is stationing thousands of missiles and rockets in apartments in the heart of the civilian population and is thus perpetrating 2 war crimes simultaneously. He added, it is organizing the firing at civilians just as it did today, and it is hiding behind civilians as human shields. The Prime Minister further said that he holds Hezbollah as well as the governments of Lebanon and Iran responsible for the attacks. Israel's border with Lebanon has been mostly quiet since Israel fought Hezbollah in 2006, but tension heightened earlier this month when a Lebanese soldier killed an Israeli soldier across the border fence. The United Nations is urging calm in the area after the rocket attack from Lebanon yesterday, and said their UNIFIL troops are working with the Lebanese armed forces to reinforce security and to find the rocket launching sites. UNIFIL Commander Major General Paulo Serra said it is of paramount importance to identify and apprehend the perpetrators of this attack, and we will spare no efforts to this end, working in cooperation with the Lebanese armed forces. Serra further said this is a very serious incident in violation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, and is clearly directed at undermining stability in the area. U.S. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki announced that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry will travel to Israel once again, making his way to Jerusalem and Ramallah on New Year's Day. Kerry will meet with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in Jerusalem on January the 1st and then travel to Ramallah to meet with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. In these meetings, Psaki said Kerry will discuss the ongoing final status negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians, among other issues. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the Likud faction meeting at the Knesset this morning, where he said that Israel will only sign a peace agreement with the Palestinians if its security is guaranteed. The Prime Minister said our vital interests lie before us during these negotiations, including assuring the settlement of the land of Israel. A peace agreement will only be signed if these vital interests are assured, particularly our security and their demilitarization. Netanyahu further clarified that a peace deal would be signed only if Israel will be recognized as the nation-state of the Jewish people, and only if the Palestinians give up their dream of the right of return or any other demand on the territory of the Jewish nation. The Prime Minister added he will hold a referendum on any agreement with the Palestinians before it is signed. And Israel's planned release of 26 Palestinian security prisoners is set to take place late tonight in Israel. Al-Magor, the organization that advocates on behalf of victims of terror, petitioned Israel's High Court of Justice today, demanding that it stop the government from releasing Palestinians convicted for killing Israelis. Al-Magor wants the court to issue an injunction against the move until it can fully hear that petition. The group is also asking the court to permit a large-scale demonstration in front of the Prime Minister's residence, as well as a procession to the Old City. The Jerusalem Post reports that the prisoners were scheduled to be released Monday night at 1 a.m. Israel time, but that technical issues forced the postponement to Tuesday at 1 a.m. The Palestinian Authority said that the Shin Bet had already transferred the 26 prisoners to Ofer prison west of Ramallah, and that the prisoners will be released at 1 a.m. Tuesday, Israel time, after being identified and being medically examined by the Red Cross. All but 3 of the prisoners being released were convicted of murdering Israeli civilians, Israeli soldiers, or of Palestinians suspected of collaborating with Israel. In a press release Saturday night, the Prime Minister's office said that all of the inmates had been convicted of offenses committed prior to the signing of the Oslo Accords in the mid-1990s. Almost all of them were given life sentences, and they have all served between 19 and 28 years of their terms. The prisoner release is the third in a total of 4 rounds, which were agreed to by Israel as a gesture for the resumption of peace talks with the Palestinians.
If you identify...
Former Israeli UN Ambassador Dori Gold will become a foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Gold will take over the position that was left vacant a few months ago by Ron Dermer, who now serves as Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. Gold, who currently serves as president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, served as an advisor to the Prime Minister during Netanyahu's previous 2 terms in office. He will now advise the Prime Minister on issues relating to the Iranian nuclear program, as well as Israel's diplomatic activity at the United Nations and Israel's relations with the United States.
It was a little bit different.
The Associated Press reports that half of a historic Auschwitz-Birkenau barracks that was on loan to the U.S. Holocaust Museum has now been returned to Poland after 20 years. The museum had wanted to extend the lease on the Nazi barracks, but Poland asked for it back after adopting new regulations in 2003 that limit the loan of all historical and artworks to a maximum of 5 years. The Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum in Poland said on its website that the wooden structure arrived at Poland's Baltic port of Gdynia yesterday. The barracks will now undergo conservation and be joined with its other half in the museum. Museum Director Piotr M. Chewinski said the effort to reassemble the barracks at its original location indicates Poland's determination to be a guardian to the authenticity and integrity of the world's largest Holocaust memorial. Plumbers in Portugal discovered what appears to be several 600-year-old mikvahs, or Jewish ritual baths. Local daily Público reported last week that the plumbers were fixing a water leak under an old building earlier this year in the city of Coimbra, in what used to be the Jewish part of the old city. Archaeologist Jorge Alarcao told the paper that this could be the only discovery of its kind made in Portugal. He said the structures appear to be mikvahs predating the 14th century. Alarcao said the Coimbra Jewish community dates back to at least 1370, and the mikvahs may have been in operation even before that date. He said that if more researchers confirm the find, the mikvahs of Coimbra may be considered among the oldest ever discovered in Europe. 100 Jewish college students from across the world gathered in Jerusalem today in order to learn the best methods to combat the BDS movement, attempts to boycott, divest from, and sanction Israel. The training is part of the Global Campus Initiative, which is a joint project of the World Jewish Congress, the European Union of Jewish Students, and the World Union of Jewish Students. The gathering follows the recent BDS efforts of several academic groups to boycott Israel, as we have reported to you. World Jewish Congress CEO Robert Singer said that through their networking and student activism, we hope to spread the best practices of how to combat the political, economic, cultural, and ideological campaign against Israel. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, December the 30th, a new segment of The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth Westheimer is coming up at 7. And at 7:30, therapist, author, and lecturer Esther Perel discusses the Jewish family to an audience at UConn Stanford for the 2nd annual Saul Cohen Jewish Family Service Lecture. At 8 o'clock, Conference of Presidents Malcolm Hoenlein discusses the challenges facing American Jewry and Israel. And on L'chaim at 9, Mark Golub is joined by Felix Posen of the Posen Library. And make sure to check our programming for New Year's Eve, which includes an in memoriam at 6 p.m. of those we lost in 2013, and part 2 of Shalom TV's Year in Review at 7 p.m. And on New Year's Day, you can watch both parts 1 and 2 of the Year in Review beginning at 12:30 in the afternoon. You can find more programming details on shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, December the 30th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader. I will be back after the new year on Thursday, wishing you a safe and very happy 2014.